As I've been saying for months, and it is here now, World War III is here. It is not down the road, it is here. There had already been some American troops in the Middle East, but now the Pentagon confirmed that several thousand U.S. military personnel to prepare for immediate deployment to the Middle East in order to assist the defense of the Israeli regime. I am literally begging my fellow Americans to understand what's happening here. Netanyahu came out with a video today talking about how his issue is not with the people of Iran. What? We're talking about Iran now? Why are you talking about Iran, Playboy? And the really creepy and eerie thing about it was that his speech, and I'm going to put this in a separate video, is that it's exactly the same as the video Netanyahu made last week regarding Lebanon before he invaded it and started carpet bombing them. It wasn't just assassinating Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah. No, they are fully invading. And he had that video last week. Oh, it's, our issue is not with the people of Lebanon. Now you're doing the same thing with Iran. What does that mean? And why are you sending them American troops there? I need for Americans in the military and your family to understand that what you're being sent there for is to die for the Israeli regime, okay? Like, you really want to do that? That's what you want to go do? I hear a lot of the right wing complaining about how the military is woke now, but you don't care that a bunch of your troops are now going to go get sent over to the Israeli regime so they can die for Netanyahu's war. Like, be fucking for real. And as far as the Americans' interest in this, it's just for corporations to make more money. Okay? That's literally all it is. If you're a regular American, you know where you are right now? Honestly, you can find countless pictures like this online right now. There are tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of Americans right now in this condition. People who got stuck all over parts of the United States, flooded, trapped, can't leave. Completely abandoned by their government, by the way. FEMA has not. First of all, if Trump wins, FEMA's gone. He wants to abolish FEMA. But even right now, as we still have our current senile president who doesn't even seem to realize what's going on, they are not sending nearly enough aid to the people that have been affected by Hurricane Helene. So just understand, fellow Americans, the reason why you're not getting the help you need for this hurricane is because your government doesn't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. Your tax dollars are not going to prevent climate change from ruining your city. They're not going to help you once you do get flooded. Nah, son. They're going to help the Israeli regime carry out genocide and war crimes against the people of Gaza, Palestine, and coming soon to Iran and Syria. And listen, Grandma over here, do you sit on the board of Boeing? Okay? Are you one of the military contracting companies that are set to make billions of dollars by going and assisting the Israeli regime with their genocidal ambitions in the Middle East? Like, because if not, the American government doesn't give a fuck about you. Sorry, Mima. They don't give a fuck about your house being destroyed. Because here's our defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, talking about how, despite the fact that a bunch of terror attacks have been carried out on the people of Lebanon the last few days, blah, 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 the Israeli regime has a right to defend itself, la, 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 la. Anyway, did you guys know that Lloyd Austin sat on the board of Raytheon, which is a military contractor? And let's see, his Raytheon stock holdings were worth, as of 2020, roughly $500,000 as compensation, including stock total $2.7 million. I'm sure that has nothing to do with that, though. Not to mention, he also operates a consulting firm and has been a partner to Pine Island Capital, which is an investment company. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Michelle Flournoy are also affiliated. An investment firm which they don't disclose what they're investing in, by the way. Are you guys starting to see this picture emerge? I really feel like we should already know this, right? Americans should already know this because we've seen this movie before. We just finally exited Afghanistan after 2 decades, trillions of dollars in American lives, over 1 million lives in Iraq and Afghanistan, bankrupting the fucking country and destroying these countries and their governments, all so that the Israeli regime could feel safe and expand, and so that American companies like Boeing, and so that a handful of Americans and corporations could get even richer. The Israeli regime is now saying that the next phase of the war could begin soon. Wait, I'm sorry, what phase? I thought that you guys were doing a limited strike in order to take out the Hezbollah leader. There is nowhere in the Middle East that the Israeli regime cannot reach. Oh, there it is. Regime change. Which has been the goal because they want war with Iran, and they have always wanted war with Iran. Netanyahu has always wanted war with Iran. I literally feel like I'm losing my mind because we are seeing the exact same thing that happened in the lead up to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars play out exactly the same. And those wars were not only devastating and disastrous to the region, they were devastating and disastrous for the fucking American people, you idiot. Wakey, wakey. Americans, because you're arguing online about a whole bunch of stupid shit as your government aids and abets in the Israeli regime's genocidal campaign in Gaza, Lebanon, soon to be Iran, and now we're sending American troops to help them with the on-the-ground operation. This is fucking Groundhog Day, and I don't see nearly enough people with their hair on fire, okay? And all you're gonna see from the press, just like you saw in the lead up to the Iraq War, is the suppression of people speaking out about it, and you're gonna see the press, whether it's print media, digital media, independent media, or corporate media cheerleading it. And speaking of Groundhog Day, we all remember the weapons of mass destruction that was used as the pretext to invade Iraq. Here is that one hack who's an Israeli spy but always comes on to try to give himself credibility by saying he's the son of Hamas, giving the game away.
Incursion into Lebanon. Where is this all going to end?
Well, the eyes are not only on Lebanon. The most important target and priority number one is the Iranian nuclear program. This is priority number one. We cannot afford allowing any Islamic entity to have mass destruction weapon because they are not showing responsibility.
Sorry, who the fuck are you to tell anyone that they can or cannot have nuclear weapons? First of all, nuclear weapons are a disaster. They're a disaster for planet Earth. They could be the end of us all at any moment. They shouldn't be allowed anywhere. But the paternalistic white supremacy is just amazing. They haven't behaved, so they don't get it. They haven't shown the responsibility. Like, fuck out of here, Rasputin. And don't try to come in here and be like, well, he's not white. You don't have to be white to hold up the system of white supremacy. There is always some sellout in any marginalized group that is willing to tango for tyrants. Poor man's Borat over here just using the same phraseology they did leading up to the Iraq War. Weapons of mass destruction. And I also like how he gives the game away about how this has nothing to do with the Israeli regime's defense. He said, it's about their nuclear program. It's about the possibility of them getting nuclear weapons. Wait a second, I thought this was about self-defense. I thought this was about October 7th. It isn't. It never was. And I think some of you aren't getting insulted enough that they keep talking to you like you're fucking stupid. But if you believe anything that's coming out of these people's mouths, you know. I also remind you that Netanyahu was claiming that the Iranians were developing nuclear weapons in the early 2000s to try to get us to start a war with Iran.
Netanyahu's lies didn't stop there. He also said the same of Iran and Libya.
The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. Now the question is, what's your next step? Knowing that three of these nations are developing nuclear weapons. This is not a hypothesis. It is fact. Iraq, Iran, and Libya are racing to develop nuclear weapons.
That clip is from 2002 when he came to the U.S. Congress to tell us to invade Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction, which we did, and they didn't. And we also destroyed Libya, too. So Iran is just the third prong that he hasn't met yet in his goals. I also like how he tries to fearmonger Americans by being like, they're developing weapons that could reach the U.S. eastern seaboard. He said that the Middle East would be way better off if we did this. How'd that go? Truly, the fact that this guy is still in power and not behind bars after the crimes against humanity that he's committed proves once again that there's no justice in the world. Evil always gets away with it. There is no international law. This is not about nuclear weapons. It never was. If it was, they wouldn't have destroyed the Iran deal. The reason why Trump ripped up the Iran deal on day one when it was working, when he came into office, was because the Israeli regime wanted him to. And they wanted him to because they never wanted peace. And the Iran deal was serving as an obstacle for them to start a war with them, and that's why they got rid of it. Lastly, you're about to hear a lot of propaganda about how the Israeli regime just lives in a tough neighborhood and everybody just hates them because they're Jewish and they're unsafe and blah, 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 blah. All of that is a lie. Netanyahu said it the other day in another one of his lie speeches where he's like, we're under siege from every country that wants to destroy us. Here's the FM of Jordan, Ayman Safadi, debunking that lie the other day at the UN.
The Israeli Prime Minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state, along the reference that we will agree. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask Israeli officials, what is their end game? other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries in the context of ending the occupation, withdrawing from Arab territory, allowing for the emergence of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on June 4, 1967, lies with occupied Jerusalem's capital. That is our narrative. That is, and we will guarantee Israel's security in that context. Can you ask Israelis what's their narrative other than I'm going to continue to go to war, I'm going to kill this and kill that and destroy this and this that? The amount of damage that Israeli government has done, 30 years of efforts to convince people that peace is possible, this Israeli government killed it. The amount of dehumanization, hatred, bitterness will take generations to navigate through. So ultimately the question is, we want peace. And we've laid out a plan for peace. Ask any Israeli official, what is their plan for peace? You'll get nothing, because they're only thinking of the first step. We're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon. And after that, they have no plan. We have a plan. We have no partner for peace in Israel. There is a partner for peace in the Arab world.
Yeah, he couldn't have been more clear. Every single Arab leader, including Hassan Nasrallah, who they just assassinated in Lebanon, the leader of Hezbollah, said that the reason why they were doing what they were doing is because of the genocide in Gaza. And that Lebanon would stop trying to defend the Palestinians if they stopped killing them in Gaza. And all these other Arab countries have said that they would be fully willing to make peace and have good relations with the Israeli regime if the Israeli regime would just stop, first, murdering Palestinians in Gaza, but also give them their state. Stop occupying them. Stop keeping them in an open concentration camp. I'm sorry, is that a lot to ask? Just think about how insane that is. That they are willing to set the entire world on fire because they don't want to let the Palestinians out of the cage they keep them in. But ultimately, it's not just about Gaza. As I talked about in a video before, which I'll tag here in case you're interested in finding out about Greater Israel, it's about taking all of Gaza. It's about stealing all Palestinian land. But it's also about stealing Lebanese land and Syrian land and parts of Iraq and parts of Iran for Greater Israel. That's really what they want. And they certainly don't want to stop occupying the Palestinians. It's actually super clear. End the occupation. Stop stealing shit that isn't yours, and the Arab countries are willing to work with you, which is frankly more than you fucking deserve. But that's not what Netanyahu wants, or his radical, psychotic, fascist government. They want World War III. They want Greater Israel. And the United States and the corrupt people that run this fucking country and the corporations are more than happy to oblige. I can't imagine many Americans, once they actually start paying attention to what's happening, are going to be very happy about this, because this is not like 2000, where Americans had a lot more money. Americans are fucking broke, okay? Yeah, you've got your 1%, you got your corporations, you got your plutocrats here, but for the most part, the 99% are fucking broke. Can't even afford daycare. And you think they're gonna want to get on board with this? No. Bankrupt people even more. I mean, if you're American, you better just hope a hurricane doesn't hit you soon, because there ain't no money coming for you. No, it's all about to go to World War III in the Israeli regime so that corporations here can get rich and lunatic radical religious zealots can create Greater Israel.